So this week I thought I would share a bit of a tips video on a useful little technique called indenting. And it's from a tutorial that I've just created. It only took about an hour and a half to do, and it's using an embossing tool like what I've got in my hand here, and also one of the clay making tools, which is a wooden tool. And basically what you do is you draw the hair in, or the texture of the hair into the paper before you put any pencil on, and it creates these indents on the paper, and I'm using a hot press paper here. It creates these indents that when you bring your pencil in over the top, the pencil skips over the little marks that the indenting tool has created, and you get marks that look like hair. It can be a really, really fantastic technique to use. You've got to get the pressure right. So it's a little bit sort of like a Goldilocks pressure. It's got to be not too hard and not too light. And with this particular technique, I find that more is better than less. If you put too few hairs in, what can happen is it can just look a little bit sporadic and not really like fur at all. Whereas if you go a little bit crazy and you get actually lots and lots and lots of these little hair-like marks in, it creates a much better end result. So this is another tool that I use. This is a wooden clay making tool that I'm using to do in the indenting. This has a softer end to it. It's still got a pointy end, but it's a little bit softer than the metal embossing tool that I was using. Again, using sort of relatively hard pressure to squash that tooth into the paper, create these fur details so that when I start to bring the pencils in over the top, the pencil skips over and around these indented marks and then creates the feel of fur. So once I've got all of the indents in, I basically brought in the black surrounding the eye just to make it have a little bit more form. And then you can see I'm just using the black polychromos here just to very gently bring pigment in over the top of the indented lines. And you can see how nicely it works. We're starting to get the feel of fur in there. You know, wherever I bring the pencil and it goes over one of those the little lines that we indented, it skips and it leaves a white space. So it's really, really great technique for creating those little hairs. It can be a little bit messy, and I have to admit it's not one of my favourite techniques, purely because you've got to do an awful lot of preparation beforehand. So the preparation is the bits that you can't really see, and you don't really know how it's going to turn out until you put your pencil on it. But that's the bit that I'm a bit gung-ho. I like to get stuck in there. I like to just, you know, start to see it coming together a little bit more, and spending time and being really careful with the indenting doesn't really fit with my laissez-faire attitude really. But saying that, this worked really, really nicely actually with what I was trying to do. And of course I had to show you the kind of the finished bit where we come in and we add all of the colour. This particular eye was quite a fun one to do actually, because I didn't really follow, it was green and yellow, but I didn't really pick out the absolute correct greens and yellows, and I had a bit of a play with this. This is a tutorial in the Academy. It's a really quick one and it's a really fun one to do. I stuck with just black polychromos for the outside, and then I brought the colours in. I think this is the light yellow glaze, and I just use a hot press paper. Drawing cat's eyes on hot press paper is quite a lot of fun actually, because it's about the layering, it's about the blending, it's about the bringing the colours in and you know, sort of burnishing a little bit, and yeah, it's quite a fun one to do. So if you fancy giving it a go, you can use anything that's sharp. I use the embossing tool, or you can use the clay making tool. You can even use your own fingernail if you want to, and it works really, really nicely.